Hey guys, welcome to Scribe Talks. I'm Caroline.
I'm Tanvi.
So today we're just going to have a casual conversation. This is strictly our opinions. It doesn't reflect any opinions by the Scribe itself or any endorsements. So today we're going to talk about the election.
Yes, so the election currently, we're recording this podcast on October 29th. Okay,
Right?
6 days away from the election. This country seems to be more polarized than ever. It's kind of a concerning situation, at least to us. Um, so far, I think over 60 million people have voted already. So before, election day. And nationwide, Biden is 10 points ahead, according to CNN.
So lots of voters, especially Democrats, are voting by mail. And so that's creating a lot of concern about a blue wave. A lot of Democrats are raising alarm that we may not know who the actual victor is on November 3rd. We're going to have to wait a few weeks or even a few months to see who the actual president will be. So it would give Trump more ammunition if he were to see that he was ahead in the polls or supposedly winning on November 3rd.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and since he said in the past that he's not willing to accept the results of the election, it's kind of raising some concerns about how things will be dealt with if Biden wins in the end. Especially with Amy Coney Barrett in the Supreme Court now. People have been raising alarms that, if Biden were to win, Trump could appeal and say that it wasn't a fair election or something like that.
Hmm. And one more point I'd like to make. I know Tom D said that Biden is ahead by 10 points in nationwide polls. And much of that is due to turnout of young voters, which is at like historic highs, due to a lot of social upheaval and the fact that young voters are paying attention to a lot of social justice causes right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and adding on to that point of the turnout of young people, I think there's a lot of young leftists in this country too. And I mean, at least I've noticed a lot of leftists are saying that they won't vote for Biden, or or that they'll vote third party or for Bernie. And it could have a really like detrimental impact to Biden's campaign because he'll lose a lot of votes in the people that actually don't want Trump to be in office, but their moral standings are causing them to vote third party or.
Yeah, I don't know the actual statistics. I'd have to look it up, but I know in the 2016 election, there were more people that did not vote or voted for a third party than, voted for Trump, and that could have definitely a detrimental impact, like you said.
Yeah, another issue is undecideds not voting. I think, I mean, I don't have any statistics to back this up, but I have a feeling that a lot of undecideds are voting than in the past elections. Like already, there's more people who have voted like before election day this year than like ever before, pretty much. Um,
Yeah, I think people can sense that this is like a major turning point for our democracy.
yeah.
So I think that a lot of people that were undecided or were not going to vote are definitely
Mhm.
voting right now.
Yeah. I've been seeing a lot of TikToks about how they think it's the end of the world. Hopefully, it's not that. I think whatever the outcome may be, hopefully there's a peaceful transition of power, or yes, hopefully no one breaks old traditions that we've had in this country that have kind of kept us together. That yeah, so a lot of polling places are being closed. Um, we're noticing fake ballot boxes being placed. Voting lines, especially in uh, lower income neighborhoods, are really long. It's just crazy that some areas have like mile long lines and people have to wait outside, like sitting on their chairs that they brought in their cars, and like.
I saw this one video of a guy that had to wait like 12 hours. He was just watching like episodes on Netflix while he was like trying to vote.
Yeah, yeah, I was watching CNN, and then I saw a woman who went viral on TikTok who was like encouraging people to go out and vote, and she was like, I have my chair, I have my snacks, like I'm ready to do this. And I feel like that's the spirit that people have to keep. It's really unfortunate because obviously there's like a lot of places without voting lines, but wherever they are, people have to stay consistent, optimistic. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of people, even through like voter suppression, the fake ballot boxes, the voter lines, they're, keeping that spirit, like you said.
Yeah.
Okay, this is not related, and you probably don't need to put it in the podcast, but like, why is election day on a Tuesday? Like,
Yeah. Why
clearly
is
people do not like want people to vote. Why would it be on a Tuesday?
Yeah, we should have a voting holiday. Like it
Yeah,
really discourages especially working class people from voting.
I think I wrote an article about this like last year or something.
Hmm.
Literally, yeah. A
Yeah, it's
Tuesday.
just I know other countries have voting holidays, and um it just seems weird that we're like considered one of the oldest democracies, right? But we
I
don't.
think I think it was that way because like Saturday and Sunday were like rest days and something about farming or whatever.
Mhm.
But I don't know. It's very stupid.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. So mail-in ballots are obviously going to affect the election a lot, but another big contributing factor is going to be Trump's corona response and how that has impacted his supporters' turnout. Um, Obviously, we can't ignore this subject without talking about how he got COVID himself. He said, "I'm Superman. I'm healthier than I've ever been 20 years ago." Um, all this stuff to make kind of lessen the severity of the disease just because he survived it. And Caroline, do you want to add?
Well, I feel like so when he first got it, when I was kind of like, you know what, I think this could be a bad thing because I feel like his supporters are just going to be like, if he survived it, I felt like his supporters were just going to be like, oh yeah, he's so great, like look how strong he is, the disease, it doesn't really exist,
Mm-hmm.
all that. But and that's kind of exactly what they're doing. Trump's just like, I think he said in some remarks earlier this week, he said coronavirus is a hoax created by like the Democrats, is going to go away on November 4th. So,
Yeah. I
right.
just, like, this is inserting my own opinion, but I just don't understand how he could say that when he obviously wasn't in good condition. He had a fever, he was on oxygen. Um, just kind of like reinforcing this idea that it's not an issue that we have to worry about. And obviously it is because it's killed, has it killed
Well,
200,000 people?
I believe it has. I believe it's killed more than that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think the Republicans have such a history of politicizing the coronavirus, even though I remember in the vice presidential debate, there was a moment when Mike Pence turned to Kamala Harris and he was like, you need to stop this. You need to stop politicizing the virus. And he was referring to the fact that Kamala Harris was, she was saying the vaccines might be like a little sketchy because,
Mhm.
the Trump administration is rushing it so much. But the Republicans themselves have politicized everything from like mass to the vaccine to the coronavirus itself, saying that it's a hoax.
Mhm.
So I don't know. It's
It's definitely, there's a lot of polarization going on. And especially, I feel like from this administration, kind of scapegoating people,
mm,
especially Democrats, not even just saying that they've invented the hoax of coronavirus, but also like we see Trump's tactics of just calling every Democrat pretty much a radical socialist, leftist, communist, Marxist, all of this stuff. I think that's politicizing this virus more than anything else.
yeah. And then speaking of scapegoating, how many times has he said China virus or like
Yeah,
it just
like
said that the virus was all China's fault?
yeah, and yeah, it's obvious. Like I just don't understand that because, like, okay, you might, I don't agree with blaming China whatsoever, but even if you were to do that, like, the virus is here in our country today. It's killing people. Like, we can't just get mad at China. Like, you have to actually do something to stop the problem at home.
China was not responsible for our handling of the virus. That
Exactly.
was you, dude.
Exactly. Yeah. Um, yeah. Another thing was how he used Fauci in an ad. Um,
Yeah.
with Fauci, first of all, Fauci wasn't even talking about Trump, like how successful Trump's administration was. He was just, I think he was discussing how like we were trying to flatten the curve, and Trump used that without his permission. And then after all of that, he attacked Fauci, called him an idiot. And honestly, I think that's going to hurt him amongst like suburban women because they really respect Fauci, and I think most Americans do.
I think Americans are just sick of, the virus being so politicized. I think that they would appreciate if the Trump administration would listen to science, and I think Fauci is respected as someone who's, not been historically political,
Mm-hmm.
and as someone who will listen to science. So, yeah, I think that you're right that this is not going to fly with voters.
Yeah, that brings me into a different thing is that a lot of people who are remaining neutral are, I mean, Fauci hasn't obviously taken sides, but he's he's voiced his opinion about how this administration has kind of silenced him in a way, and I think a lot of people that we consider like centrists or have like steered away from politics are kind of making it clear who they support now. Like, that reminds me of Obama, like openly declaring support for Biden. Um,
Mhm.
I mean, obviously he was his vice president, but
Yeah,
at the same time, no president has ever done something like that. So, kind of highlights how important this election is to our democracy.
yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Another thing that I think might affect Trump's support among generally neutral people is Bob Woodward's reporting that Trump kind of downplayed the virus. I think that's another thing that's going to hurt him among people that are generally apolitical. I think that they want him to listen to science and protect American lives, which he was obviously not doing. He was playing this for political points and nothing else.
Yeah. And also, Woodward's reputation as like the truth teller.
Responsible for, Watergate reporting. So, like, you'd think he could.
Yeah. So it seems he'd be respected, but I feel like a lot of Trump's base are also kind of dismissing his story. But I think, yeah, what you're saying among centrist voters, I feel like that's probably made a big impact on how they look at Trump's administration.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another kind of running theme, we talked about how this virus has become politicized, and that kind of relates to how Trump supporters themselves seem to be very lax about the way they deal with COVID.
Yeah. They're either very lax or they're just outwardly antagonistic against, like rules regarding masks or something. Like they'll go into a store and say, I don't have to wear a mask. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah, a lot of like inflammatory responses. Seen a
Yeah.
lot of videos on Twitter of people walking into stores and saying like, I had like you can't reject me for not wearing a mask when it's just a matter of public safety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very much kind of like the argument kind of for the Second Amendment. They're kind of just like, I'm American, you can't take away my freedom by making me wear this mask or something. And then, it's just like, no, this is public safety that trumps your right to not put a piece
Mhm.
of fabric on your face.
Yeah, it's like it's the freedom to keep you safe. I don't
Yeah.
understand why that should be a debate, but
Yeah.
um,
Honestly, it's just like basic compassion, but okay.
yeah. Yeah, I think just this election has been so polarizing that I mean, I feel like the majority of Americans want the same thing. They want safety, they want security, all of that, but just the idea of how you can achieve safety and security has been so like polarized now.
Yeah. Speaking of polarizing, let's go back a few weeks and talk about the first presidential debate.
Oh boy. Yeah, well, that made America look a little dumb.
Yeah, I think we looked very foolish on the world stage. I think everyone saw that that was basically two old men about to get into like a fist fight on the stage.
I know.
It is not good. Um, it was basically a platform where there was no actual substantive policy debate. It was
Mhm.
just like, you are an idiot. You are an idiot.
I didn't learn any facts that night. If anything, I learned things after when, CNN and not CNN, like other news organizations kind of went through the debate, did their fact checks. Um, it was also really interesting seeing the perspective of like different news organizations. So like obviously I saw CNN, then I went to Fox News, and very big difference in the way they portrayed like who did well, and what image would be, portrayed to the country. Um,
Although that actually brings up another point, like, say you're a Trump supporter, you're only going to watch like Fox News, you're only getting half of the story, and then you're a Biden supporter, you're only watching MSNBC, like,
mhm.
you're only getting half of the story, like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
that leads people to like dig in their heels and say, I'm only going to vote for this candidate, I'm voting for this candidate. I feel like it's not like the debate did not help anything.
Yeah. This is maybe a little unrelated, but there's this documentary I watched on Netflix called The Social Dilemma.
Oh, I wanted to watch that. That's the one about like Facebook and stuff, right?
Yeah, and they kind of talked about how social media has especially polarized
Hmm.
um, just our political atmosphere. And like I kind of always thought that, but they really laid it out in a good way by explaining like how these platforms basically give you what you want to hear. Like
Yeah.
they're not about unbiased sourcing, about giving you multiple sources. They're all about giving you what you want. And if you have a certain mindset already, then it just kind of feeds off of it and you keep going into like a deeper rabbit hole basically.
We were learning about this like in psychology a few weeks ago. I think there's some name for it. It's like social facilitation or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
or group polarization maybe. But basically, you're in a group, you all share the same views. You're all going to have you're going to create a more extreme view because you're all going to talk amongst yourselves and be like, yeah, I totally agree with that. Like your views are going to become more and more extreme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel like it's so relevant to today's society. And maybe it's even why, someone like Trump could get elected in 2016. It's because, you know, these platforms that we're on don't provide us with perspective, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, last point about debates, vice presidential debate. I
Yes.
do want to bring up the star of the show. Why?
Really was the star of the show there. Yeah.
It won the debate. It really did. I
Yeah.
think we should name it.
Huh?
I feel like we should name it.
We should name it.
I'm feeling Harold.
Harold.
Yes,
I like Harold. I like that. Yeah.
Harold the Fly.
Harold the Fly. Yeah, Harold really stole the show that night.
He
Yeah.
really did.
Honestly, like I watched the debate and I think there was much more productive conversation than, our presidential candidates. But I don't think it really changed anything in terms of how the
Yeah,
polls are going.
I
Um,
agree. Yeah,
yeah, I think people are pretty set in their ways now at this point.
yeah.
It seems like the polls aren't really changing much.
I think basically you have Trump supporters, you have Biden supporters, then you have the undecideds, and basically the only variable with that is if they're going to vote. I think they're leaning one way
Mhm.
or the other way, but they're just deciding, am I going to vote or not?
Yeah. Yeah, it really comes down to the number of people that go out and just voice their opinions.
Yeah.
So, to whoever is listening, if you are over 18, which you might not be because like you probably go to Wilcox. But if you are over 18, please go out and vote. It could make all the difference in this election. No matter who you're voting for, no matter what props you're interested in, just go out there and voice your opinion. Yeah.
Please make up for the fact that I missed the election by 2 days.
Yes. Do it for
Please,
Caroline.
please do it for me.
So thank you everyone for listening. This has been Scribe Talks. We had a lot of fun today. hopefully we can make this a weekly thing, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Hope everyone has a good time. Happy voting. Yeah.
Great week.